Hello and welcome to Business India with me, Tarun. The biggest issue facing the power sector in India today is aggregate technical and commercial losses, or AT&C losses as we call it, which many power distribution companies operating in states across the country are barely able to collect 55 to 60% of the bill amounts from their consumers. With no hope of earning money from electricity or for electricity supplied, these distribution companies resort to load shedding, and hence power generation companies suffer as actual demand is suppressed or underreported. The Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, Uday as we call it, has laid down circle-wise targets to reduce AT&C losses. Delhi is an example in the country where AT&C losses have come down to 8.5%. How big a challenge will it be to implement such measures across the country? Joining to discuss the same are Mr. Praveer Sinha, he's CEO of Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited, a person who comes with about 3 decades of experience in the power sector and who's brought distribution losses in Delhi to 8.5%. And you've got former Principal Secretary of Power in Delhi, Mr. Shakti Sinha, a career civil servant who saw over the power reforms in Delhi at a critical juncture when Delhi went into private hands or public-private partnership hands, and Delhi has set an example in the country of how distribution losses can be reduced. I start with my first comment to Mr. Shakti Sinha. Mr. Sinha, what would be your opening comment on such an issue?
For the consumers, I can't imagine life without power. So obviously, any government's focus should be on ensuring availability of power. In Delhi, fortunately, once the privatization was done, the private licenses came on board. They were able, through investments and better checking, and obviously, when I say investments, a massive amounts of investments are required at the retail level, at the distribution level. And that they were able to bring down the losses, and which is why Delhi today, in that sense, is absolutely comfortable with power.
Delhi stands out. I'm going across to Mr. Praveer Sinha, indeed a man who actually ensured that Delhi gets to a status where it is at least admired in the country. Sir, how proud would you feel that Delhi has shown the way to the country in T&D losses, or how to reduce them?
Thank you very much. Yes, it is a matter of pride for us that from 53% loss when we took over in 2002, today we are at 8.88. And this sort of improvement has not been seen anywhere, of course, in our country, but internationally also. And the Delhi example is a perfect example of public-private enterprise and how various stakeholders have worked together to improve the quality of life by supplying 24/7 power to the consumers. In fact, we have been invited worldwide in developing countries in Central Asia, in Africa, and some of the Latin American countries to share our experience as to how we have been able to transform and what were the challenges, what are the good things that was done, what are the learnings, what were the wrong things which has to be avoided in future. And I think this is an example which can be replicated in other states if we do it diligently.
Can be replicated, Mr. Sinha sounds very optimistic, but I'm going across to Mr. Sinha again to ask him, sir, when we see Delhi, you can say that, Delhi, it was done. But when you say Uttar Pradesh, when you see Rajasthan with 80,000 crores of accumulated losses, when you see other states, they say it's almost laughable that you can get down from, say, about losses of 55, 56% to 10%. Do you think Delhi is different than these states? What are the challenges?
Of course, Delhi is different, no doubt, because it is a consolidated demand at one place. At the same time, please remember that various places in Delhi, even today, have massive amount of power losses because the power companies are unable to really access them and handle the local mafias out there as an example. So if you can do it in Delhi, it will not be 100% applicable to other parts of the country, but I think it does show that it is possible to do it.
Okay.
Now, obviously, states are different. Massive demands are in the rural areas where investments required are comparatively higher per consumer. Per unit of power consumed, the investment will be much higher required. Delhi had that advantage of having concentrated demand. Small area, 1,600 square kilometers, millions of people there. So obviously, but the complications in Delhi were different. When you had such a high level of AT&C losses, and AT&C losses is a better term than T&D losses,
yes,
because this is you're calculating on the basis of total power. T&D, you're only calculating on the basis of the power billed.
Yes.
So power not collected. But what was the power not billed? So Delhi had a massive chunk of consumers who are not formal part of the system.
Okay.
Now to bring them on board and to bring down losses from 50% plus to the level we have today, absolutely amazing. It shows that if there is a will, it can be done.
Okay, so if there is a will, it can be going. I'm going across to Mr. Praveer Sinha to ask him, sir, there are 2 or 3 things. When we see the list of states where AT&C losses are very high, they say it's linked to politics. Rajasthan, 80,000 crores of losses were allowed to be accumulated over the past decade. Uttar Pradesh is another example where bills are not collected from many cities. Many people have not paid electricity bills for years together. Do you think the nexus of politics with administration makes it really difficult to take these decisions?
Well, the example in Delhi and our experience in Delhi demonstrates that if you are strict about it, if you are committed about it, people pay for the electricity. Over a period of time, we have seen there were political challenges, there were issues whereby we were put under tremendous pressure from various pressure groups, from the community, from the politicians. But we have not succumbed to that sort of pressure, because when you run on commercial basis and you do not have any governmental support, it is important that the business has to be viable.
Okay.
And to take care of that, we ensured that any theft of electricity, whoever that person may be, we have booked cases against them and we have gone.
So give us an example of how many cases would you have booked in order to ensure this kind of compliance where you got to 8.5%?
In last 14 years, we've booked something like 70,000 cases.
That's a huge number.
That's a huge number. And alternate dispute resolution mechanisms through Lok Adalat, permanent Lok Adalat, special courts have been helping us in getting these resolved. And that has actually helped us to put also the fear in the minds of the people,
yes,
that they cannot steal electricity and get away with it.
Okay.
So you can just jump in here.
Yes, Mr. Sinha.
You know, it's also a fact that a lot of consumers may not be paying to the distribution company, but they are paying money for using electricity. So if you guarantee them good quality power, many people will come on board. Recalcitrants will be there, hence the 70,000 cases, but more than 10 times the number voluntary are paying up because they are getting good electricity.
Okay. I'm going across to Mr. Sakti Sinha and want to know from him these 2 things. Sir, I would want to ask you, how do you see the nexus that between politics and power prices in India, and how does that make the job of a bureaucrat that much more difficult to get these targets? Because they say in Uttar Pradesh an officer will be transferred if he gets too tough with collections where government is in charge of distribution, or say in Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan, all these places they say it's fraught with danger. So a bureaucrat does not tread into that territory. Okay, so don't collect bills, but ensure that I have my job at least. Sir, how do you see all this?
You see, for a government with elections in mind, any political party, I'm not taking names, any political party, especially at the local level, they do feel threatened when you have drives like filing of cases and booking people for not paying up. And therefore political parties by and large are very hesitant to be associated with them, would rather oppose it. At the same time, because government itself owns major generation companies,
yes,
the pressure is the generator company should do well. Yes. So how do you balance a case where you don't want the consumers to pay up, but you want the generators to make money? And that is something where I think is where the honest, straightforward bureaucrat or a power distributor really gets caught in this cleft between these two.
Okay.
Completely contradictory strengths.
Okay, it's quite contradictory. I'm going across to Mr. Praveer Sinha. Sir, I would want to ask you, Delhi has got a landmass of say 1250 kilometers, square kilometers. When you see big states with the landmass of 30,000 square kilometers, let's say Rajasthan or Uttar Pradesh with much more, do you think that it is easier said than done in these, because you've got crores of people, a population of 10 crores, I mean the sizes of a European country. Each of our states can be compared to a European country. Do you think it is easier said than done when such big population is involved?
See, what we have to do is we need to do a ABC analysis of a state. And so also we did it over here. When we took over, it was very onerous for us to look at the whole area. In our case, we look after North and Northwest Delhi, and it was 510 square kilometer. So the target one was that who are the consumers, who are the high paying consumers, who are the consumers who consume more quantity of power. And though and those are the low-hanging fruits that we started attacking.
So are you indicating that industrial defaulters are a higher number?
Initially, because whether it is the industrial or the commercial, their consumption is very, very high compared to the consumption of individual domestic consumers.
Yes.
So, so you typically do a ABC analysis, and in the A category you put all these high-end consumers.
Yes.
And we basically try to ensure that we supply them power, but we also ensure that they do not indulge in theft of electricity. And just going back to what Mr. Shakti Sinha was mentioning about the challenge of 1500 square kilometers that is there in Delhi, we also have large number of consumers. Delhi has something like 46 lakh consumers. Compare this with a state like Bihar with a population of 10 crores. They have just some 29 lakh consumers.
Okay.
While Delhi with less than 2 crore population has nearly 46 lakh consumers. So the challenges are very, very different. It's a very concentrated area. There is huge number of demands of the consumer. They want the best of the service over here. And to that extent, the expectations and the quality of service that is required to be given is very challenging in a urban environment like Delhi.
Okay. Mr. Shakti Sinha, if you see the Uday scheme, indeed a landmark scheme where Mr. Piyush Goyal said that, you know, we'll take over the losses, the states will take a share, they'll take a hit in that sense, but ensure compliance and people pay bills by reducing AT&C. Do you think that it is easier said than done? Because again, the politics and the elections, which in India can be, say, all the year round process, every 6 months some state goes to elections, and then in that sense it becomes difficult to get people to pay up.
Absolutely. See, there's only so much that the government of India can do. Now, to my mind, it's gone more than what it can do in the sense of incentivizing the states.
Yes.
So that, okay, we'll help you with it. But the states have a problem, the problem that you mentioned. Now, for government of India to come up is very, very brave. But for the states to actually bite the bullet, it's not the losses. The losses they'll take as one time. That's fine. 50% you put it in long-term bonds, etc.
Yes.
But the fact is, along with it, you have to have cost-effective tariff. And it is there that the problem arises, that the states, a lot of states put pressure on the Electricity Regulatory Commissions not to increase tariffs.
Yes.
So once you do that, no matter how much good intentions government of India has, no matter how much money government of India is willing to put on the table, if the other side is not willing to take the step forward,
yes,
then you will run away with the problem again. You will have one Uday, you sort out the problem for now, but you will build up the losses again.
But sir, that is where my question comes. Many sectors experts say, what if Uday fails? It is going to be disaster, because Uday is a bold step by any central government to take.
Absolutely.
I'm going across to Mr. Praveer Sinha. Sir, Uday was a very bold step by the central government to take. But do you feel that if Uday is not coming up to the kind of intentioned results, or if the states do not live up to the promises despite signing the documents, what can the central government do?
Absolutely right. In fact, Uday, as Mr. Shakti Sinha mentioned, is a very bold step which has been taken by Government of India, and the bailout that has been done is primarily to ensure that the states get power supply at a lower cost and can pass on the benefit to the consumers, because their financing cost has come down drastically. But along with that, there are a number of other parameters that needs to be met, and typically the parameters are that you need to reduce your AT&C loss, you need to do certain amount of automation and technology involvement, you need to fully computerize your billing and collection, and those are the areas which the states have to do.
Yes.
The funding is of course being provided, part funding is being provided by the central government, but the states, if they do not have a desire and intention to change,
yes,
whatever you may put on a piece of paper, whether we call it by Uday or any other name, that will not get translated on the ground. And the challenge is that in most of the states, it's business as usual. They have got breathing time, they have got breathing money to buy power for this year and maybe next year. But what do they do if they do not improve? And here I would like to share with you that in Delhi, before 2002, there used to be a subsidy amount of nearly 1200 to 1400 crores, which used to be given to the power, the
department,
power company
the Delhi
at that
Vidyut
time.
Board.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Delhi Vidyut Board.
Yes.
And at today's price, it would have been about 4,000 crores of subsidy would
huge.
have been given. But Delhi government stopped giving that subsidy, and the money that was saved was used for the social welfare programs, for creating the infrastructure like the metro rail, the flyovers. So it's actually a huge benefit if the reforms takes place. Unfortunately, this is not happening in most of the states, and the fear which is there that another couple of years we will again have a situation whereby states may become bankrupt and may not be in a position to pay.
That's a very big alarm which
yes.
is sounded by both Mr. Shakti Sinha and Mr. Praveer Sinha. They are being they're not mincing words when they are saying that states shouldn't take it as a breather ki okay, we've got time, we've bought time, now we can fight the next elections. Precisely, I want to ask a question to Mr. Shakti Sinha. I'll read out a few figures. The highest AT&C losses are in the following states. You've got Arunachal Pradesh, it's excess of 60%. Bihar is excess of 50%. Sikkim, again more than 50%. Meghalaya, Manipur, Orissa, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, excess of 42%. Madhya Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir. Now, these are one of the biggest states of this country. So tell me, when a scheme like Uday has come, states and secretaries have signed those documents, they've come to the center, all that process has happened. Do you think the politics will allow it to happen?
I can only hope it will allow it to happen, because if you see the figure that you've just cited,
Yes.
see the tremendous loss to society happening. In other words, I'm generating 100 units of power as an example, but the consumer is only getting 40%.
Yes.
60% you're wasting in that sense. It's not just being stolen. Many people think it's stolen. It's also because we have not invested enough in distribution, and therefore you're losing
But sir,
this
power generators, more than now, when we got so much of stranded power assets, they're crying hoarse, saying that states are suppressing demand.
Absolutely.
I mean,
how do states are very smart? The state DISCOM doesn't get the money. Okay, you don't want tariffs to go up? Fine. Pay the difference?
Yes.
The DISCOM cannot take the load, right?
Yes.
So what does the DISCOM do? It runs out of money. It can't pay the generators, right? So what it does, it stops buying power. Now I went to a district in UP in winter.
Yes.
Very not too far from Delhi, hardly 200 kilometers away from Delhi. And we checked into a hotel at night. There was no electricity.
Yes.
So we said, ki generator chalao. So he said he'll charge us extra for it, and fine. Then we asked him, how much power do you get? He's saying 24 hours on, 24 hours off.
But that's glaring.
That's glaring.
So, Mr. Praveer Sinha, would you be surprised when you hear such things? You live in Delhi where we get 24 hours of power, but 24 hours on, 24 hours off?
I actually concur with Mr. Shakti Sinha. In fact, our experience has also been, and we work in very many states as consultants.
Yes.
And we find that the supply of electricity is absolutely pathetic in most of the smaller cities and in villages. Power supply is from 4 hours to 8 hours or 10 hours. But you do not know when this power comes. Many a times the power comes late in the night, they are sleeping, they cannot use that power for any usage, including agriculture pump sets. And until and unless this reform takes place and there is a mission drive in the states that if they do not do it, people working in the DISCOMs will be accountable, the engineers and the officers working over there, they will be penalized if they do not meet the target. And just going back to the data that you were sharing about the AT&C loss. First of all, this AT&C loss data itself is a wrong data, and many of the states we have done calculations and we have demonstrated that the losses, when they say it is 24% or 28%, is actually 38 or 40%. And there is a huge gap because most of the places the metering is not done. Where the metering has done, the meters are not working. In fact, in the states that we have seen, nearly 20 to 25% of the meters are not working over there. And so hence the data itself is not correct. And until and unless we start measuring and monitoring that, it would be very difficult for us to come up with a roadmap for what improvements and what changes we need to bring. So in all, I feel that the states have to be responsible, states have to be accountable. There has to be incentive as well as penalties which have to be there. And if they do not do it diligently and in a mission mode, we will again come up with the same sort of situation that we
Mr.
saw.
Sinha, one very quick question before I go on to Shakti Sinha. States, private companies saw projected power demand and have invested in power plants. Many private players have invested in power seeing a projected demand. Now when states suppress this very demand, the basis on which these power plants have come up with thousands of crores invested, they see no reason, because they are operating at plant load factors in many cases which are less than even 50%. Do you think this is something to worry about?
This is definitely an issue to worry about, because we have a generation capacity of 304 gigawatt.
Yes.
And the peak this year has not crossed even 150 gigawatt. Last year also in the summer the peak did not cross 144. So there is a huge challenge that until and unless the reforms takes place, many of these new capacities, and these capacities have been created only in last couple of years, in fact last 10 years,
yes,
the capacity addition has been about 140 gigawatt. They have been created, financed, and they have coal with them, they have everything to run these plants, and they are unfortunately not being scheduled. In fact, the cumulative PLF of all the plants in the country is not even 60%.
Yes.
And while these plants can easily have a cumulative PLF of 80 to 85%. So it's a matter of huge concern.
Huge concern. Yes, Mr. Shakti Sinha, what do you think on this?
Yeah, absolutely, in the sense that because of the suppressed demand, the demand is actually there, but because the only person who pays in the whole chain is the consumer.
Yes.
If you're not able to take money from the consumer, the DISCOM won't have money. The DISCOM won't have money, it won't be able to pay the generation company, and the transmission aside for a moment. And therefore you have the generating company. Now the generating company, what does it do? It gets stuck. So India actually needs more than 304 gigawatt that we have actually.
Yes.
But the fact remains that because the system is so broken, you've seen the figures that you read out, 50% and 60% losses at that stage, and the DISCOMs are bankrupt, and therefore they're not buying the power. They're not investing in transmission, in their local transmission systems. The required substations are required. The whole system obviously will then not take.
But Mr. Sinha, there is another problem. Sector experts have been pointing out that in the first wave of private sector investment in power plants, huge money came in.
Right.
But now people are skeptical. Industrialists are skeptical in investing into this industry. In fact, as many as 60 owners want to sell out.
I can imagine.
Files are lying with NTPC. NTPC is now a kingmaker, it is a pick and choose position which one to buy. But they say the problem is different. In 2022, when the real demand rises, there will not be enough power plants. Don't you think that is also something that one must think?
Absolutely. And therefore, this is why I think Uday is so important for the states to take advantage of Uday.
Yes.
And really build their systems to make it robust enough.
Yes.
Because, and Praveer talked about, you don't know when the power is coming. Forget the generation company. I'm an industrialist. Will I set up a unit at a place where there is no power?
Yes.
Or where the power may come at 2 o'clock at night? Answer is no. So absolutely, for the economy, I think it's a disaster if they don't.
It's a disaster for the economy. I'm going across to Mr. Praveer Sinha. Has time come to ensure or to see that states now bid out larger areas, or say a couple of districts, to private companies to ensure that there is compliance and AT&C losses are reduced?
I think they have to do that because the people are getting fed up with electricity not being provided to them. And I just want to share one experience recently. I had gone to a few of the backward districts of Bihar where the power supply is only 3 to 4 hours in a day. And over there I found that there are people who have put up renewable power plants, and those people are supplying 24/7 power to the consumers, to the villagers over there. These are small villages with 200 families or 250 families.
Yes.
And consumers in villages are paying up to 15 to 20 rupees per unit to get 24/7.
Okay.
So it's not that the people are not ready to pay for it.
Yes.
They want 24 hours power, they want certainty of supply, and it's just that we need to put our act together.
Now that we almost run out of time, I'll take closing comments from both my panelists. Yes, Mr. Shakti Sinha, what would be your closing comment for today's discussion?
As I said very, very clearly, I cannot imagine India becoming a developed economy in that sense, which does not have, everybody in this country does not have 24/7 power.
Yes.
And the fact is, today, if you see the map of India, satellite image of India at night, there are huge pockets of darkness.
Yes.
So obviously, the large areas are still untapped. People need
That
power.
does worry you.
And that absolutely worries me. That absolutely worries me. You cannot be a developed country if you don't supply 24/7. Where is the quality of life? Where is the investment? Where is the employment?
I take that as your closing comment. I'm going to Mr. Praveer Sinha. Sir, what is your closing comment for today's discussion?
Power is a fundamental right like water, and the necessity of it is more in today's connected world. The aspirations of people, whether they are in cities or in villages, is the same, and they want to be connected, and for them to be connected, electricity will have to play
Electricity will have to be given. I'm taking that as Mr. Sinha's closing comment. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on today's discussion. So as we see, the power and the coal minister Piyush Goyal, in his wisdom, mooted this idea of Uday, launched it. The states have come and signed up contracts. Power for all is being talked about. But all this will turn into reality only and only when the states actually start collecting bills from where it is due and reduce the AT&C losses to at least 15% or below. Will that happen? Only time will tell. We'll track the story for you on News World India. But thank you so much for joining us on Business India today. Thank you.